Up to 3, 2, 1, turn.
Sorry.
Terrible.
And that's 2 lucky jobs this week. Friday.
All right. Don't rub it in, mate. To those unemployed members of the... Well, no, I've got...
We're in different lines of work.
I'm
mate,
busy all week. Anyway. No, that's great, mate. Anyway, that's not why we're here. We are here. Welcome back to Verde After Hours. It's after hours, so what do you expect? Shut up. Today we're going to be talking about trivia. No, was it trivia? I can't remember. Yes, trivia and the misapprehensions, misconceptions that lie therein. I think because obviously as purveyors of film-related content, we have to talk about movies, and often what comes up in the comment section below are, how can I put this kindly, smart asses who no, but like people who are like, do your research or whatever, not understanding really that these are kind of off the cuff. We do a bit of research beforehand, but nevertheless we do spend a lot of time looking through information that's out there, be it on IMDb or anywhere else. And I think a lot of time people misunderstand that these are purely repositories of, that it's crowd wisdom. It's sort of disseminated information from either DVD extras or from anecdote. Just from I know the cousin of the brother whose dog worked on fucking whatever, and that's like doesn't mean it's accurate. Doesn't mean it's right. And also a lot of the stuff we read, when viewed in the context of anyone who works in the film industry, would know that is a gross embellishment of the truth, that just couldn't have taken place on screen the way they say it did. So that's kind of what we want to talk about today.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with trivia. As a kind of pub quiz trivia guy, I love all that.
Yeah.
It's what annoys me is like the bullshit trivia, and also that not repeating the bullshit somehow means you don't have the wisdom. Like the example I gave you. And I didn't say that, we talked about this earlier, the example I gave you, which I didn't really elaborate on, is one that I heard years ago, probably in the very early days of IMDb, which is a Star Wars one, which is like when Han Solo is talking to the guy on the radio or whatever in the Death Star, and then he shoots the console and says it was a boring conversation anyway. It's like, well, when Han Solo shoots the console and says it's a boring conversation anyway, that was improvised. And it's like, right, so basically he says that line, he shoots the console, and a pyrotechnic goes off.
Yeah.
So either that was something that was discussed and set up, or he had a real laser gun and improvised and shot the console. You know what I mean? Because there's effect and there are edits in it, and it's bullshit. He may have... Now, what I understand to be the case is that he didn't like that dialogue, and he changed it. He had the dialogue changed.
Yeah.
That's not the same as improvising something.
Well, I understand as well. Unless you're someone, and don't get me wrong, this does happen. There are, especially in TV, but also in film as well, there are script tyrants, if you like, who will not allow you to change things. But generally speaking, when you're working on a film, if a piece of, most screenplays are written with the understanding that when you get into the situation with the actors, sometimes the dialogue won't work or will need changing up. That happens all the time. It's happened to me. It happened to me recently on a thing. And all you do is you sit there and you try ideas, and you have an idea and you try it out. That's not improv. Improv is in the moment.
Yeah, that's something that happens.
Just reactive. Yeah, it's not. That's not improvisation. That's
in the opening of
there.
GoldenEye. Pierce Brosnan improvised jumping off the dam. No, he would have died.
Yeah, I mean, that's. Don't confuse. Yeah, don't confuse having an idea on or changing dialogue on the day because you stood around after rehearsing it and had a think. That's not. It's purely all it is they will have tried it. Bear in mind, I guarantee you, for every line like that, they did it the script way. They will have done it the script way. That's always the way you do it. You always get what the script tells you to, but then you give them another option because that's basically giving the editor the chance to say, no, that doesn't work. Yeah. You've fulfilled your obligation to actually do the script, but here's what we think is a better idea. What do you think? Kind of thing. That's. It's about giving people options. That's all filmmaking is. It's about, at the end of the day, it's about giving people options when they're cutting it together. So that's how an effective crew and cast work together. Is they they allow for that atmosphere on set. But that, for example, of Harrison Ford saying that, there's no, you don't. I had another one recently where they talked about that you're going to need a bigger boat line from Jaws being improvised. It's like that. No, because that shot's set up.
That's not possible.
You
can get that. They, like you say, if the actress contributed to that, fine. But like that's there's edits in it. It was not.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you see stuff, and when there are, I can't think of examples off my head, but where someone has clearly improvised a line or a take, and you can see it sometimes.
Anything Judd Apatow, for example.
A lot of that to the tune of a 4-hour film. Or whatever, but like.
I mean, and then you look at a film like The Big Lebowski, where everyone assumed that was all ad-libbed, or a lot of it was improv, and none of it was. It was all rehearsed to the.
Some good examples that have already been raised today are. So Edgar Wright is what you'd call a script tyrant. Like Edgar Wright has already made that film in his head, and everything has to go off to what he's designed, because like they're kind of films about films. They're filmmaking films. Like something like Baby Driver, for example, was very much designed about all the rhythms of what goes on. It's a precision time thing, and I get that. It's probably a fucking nightmare to be on set for, but I get it. Someone such as Jon Favreau is someone who's into improvisation and overlapping dialogue, and probably not so much these days. I haven't really watched his newer stuff like Cowboys vs Aliens and all that. But
I've seen that. That's a film that conceptually I think could have been really good, but
Well, I don't imagine The Lion King is that, or the Jungle Book film that he did.
No.
There's no room for that. But up to Iron Man, he was still doing that, and it's kind of and I get that. I'm sure a bunch of stuff in Iron Man is like that, and things like Swingers, which he wrote, and whatever, which
Well, it's improv again, but let's tie down what we mean by improv in something like Iron Man, for example. Yes, I can imagine there are scenes where you've got Robert Downey Jr. and Gwyneth Paltrow on screen together, and it's like he's gonna throw her a jibe, or he's gonna throw a thing at Pepper Potts, and it's gonna be fun. But improv doesn't mean we just did whatever. It's like you're still in a tight shot. You still have a script. You still have to get from point A to point B. You still have to hit your marks. So it's like it's one thing for him to sort of turn around and throw an extra line or add to a line that he's already got. Yeah, that's improv. But it's not like whose line is it anyway? Where Jon Favreau goes, okay.
Like Clive Anderson sat behind the camera.
He sat there with a
okay, you're a doctor and you have inflated eyeball.
Go. You're at a party.
Fucking Tony Slattery's there.
Yeah, I mean it isn't that. So it's not. It's still a very, very specific thing, because it's a scene they have to get that's in the screenplay. Blah blah blah. Don't get me wrong. Again, like on a big budget thing like that, and you're on a set, you might well have the opportunity to turn around and say, "Oh, can we get a shot of this?" or "Why don't we try getting a shot of that?" And you've got maybe the budget to do it, but you'll be on a schedule. And I dare say in the first Iron Man, at least they would have had to have hit the schedule as much, because it wasn't like they had unlimited budget. So I'm sure that, some of that goes on. But again, it's like we need to be clear what we're talking about here. It seems like people use that as a catch-all term for someone said something outside
that's been
the
added
script.
to the script.
Yeah.
It's kind of like when Tony Stark removes his heart, that scene was improvised. Like, They just shut down production for 3 days, built a prosthetic, because Robert Downey Jr. said, wouldn't it be great if she rooted around him by heart?
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot to be said for that. It's the strange kind of, it's the ones you hear back time and time again. You hear the same old chestnuts over and over. And like the Han Solo one is the one. And also, again, particularly like IMDb trivia sections, which I love to read, and Wikipedia and stuff like that, a lot of it's completely unverified. I mean, it's all, getting stuff directly from the director's commentary or whatever, that, okay, fair, that's a first-hand account from someone who made the film, that's one thing. But to then just transplant it into a trivia section with no citation.
Well, I read one I read off IMDb earlier for Rocky, that I read for fun, because it was ridiculous, was a guy talking about the Carl Weathers' audition or whatever with Stallone, and
right.
how he started punching him for real, and it's like this sort of written as a first-hand account, literally to the point where like Carl Weathers stopped for a moment and thought, and then replied blah blah blah. It's like it's not. What are you writing the novelisation?
It's a novelised, it's the fucking.
You weren't there. Shut up. Like wind it in. Like but it's the sort of artistic license that people now apply to these trivia sections, because any bugger can write them.
Yeah, you can pile any old shit into.
I mean, honestly, if you go through most trivia sections on IMDb, there's so much repetition because they've written about the same thing.
It's the same thing worded differently by a different person who just haven't read the rest. And
it's
What compels you to race out once you've heard a thing and then go and slap it on?
The improvised thing, I think, there's a real bug up people's arse respective assholes about, and it's funny how they're like opinions, is that they're desperate to point that out, aren't they? They're desperate to say, no, it wasn't planned. Oh no, that wasn't planned. Oh, it was just so clever.
So a plane just happened to be taking off on the runway, and Tom Cruise climbed onto it. It's just like, what?
Really? So they put the camera where?
I tell you what you do see quite a lot is, and I can't pull any examples out of the air, but like on a director's commentary or an interview, or with an actor, they'll make a deadpan joke, and then someone interprets that as fact and goes and puts it on the internet. I've seen it a few times where it's kind of like, oh well, I don't know, Nick Frost ate an entire birthday cake. It was in his rider that he'd only eat a birthday cake before he came on set, and then they all sit around and laugh at it. And then someone goes like, on set, Nick Frost insists upon eating an entire birthday cake every day. And it's just like, where did you get that? Dude, that's a joke.
Yeah.
There's a joke. I think it's in Shaun of the Dead commentary. Nick Frost makes a joke about them. What was it? He said something about them all doing a soggy biscuit off every day on set or something like that. That's exactly the kind of thing I can see. Someone rushes off and it's like, mate, read the room. Tone and context. Like these are context cues, my friend. Context cues.
Well, yeah, it's like someone accused you of actually wanting a war. And it's just like, look, if you're going to conduct the rest of your life not understanding tone and context, good luck.
In the last one of these, I said this generation needs a good old war, and I did it kind of deadpan, but it was a joke. And then some guy come up in the comments and says he's unsubscribed because I want a war and I should consider the bloody wars of Afghanistan and Iraq before I say such things. Like, I don't really want a world war because I live in the world, and that would be really bad for me. Perhaps don't take everything I say at face value. Like,
yeah. Shouldn't have really. Anyway, shouldn't have responded. But anyway,
he's not watching. He unsubscribed.
Well, that's true. And then now he can't comment because now it'll see. Now we'll know he lied. And it's also the sort of. I think what I find frustrating as a people who provide YouTube content about movies is that there is a sense that unless you cover off all of that list of trivia from wherever, Wikipedia or IMDb, you've somehow failed to cover the film adequately, and that frustrates me because it's kind of like I'm talking about this, not you, not them, or we're talking about it. It's not. It's our opinion. It's our take on it, and what we hope to come to is a sort of unique perspective on something and uncover maybe some things in the material that you hadn't. The point is not to sit here and just mawkishly list shit.
It's like a hidden point system.
Yeah.
You're being ranked against whether or not you remembered that fucking Mark Hamill has 3 nipples or whatever. It's just like, I mean, I get that. I'm not above that because I do kind of often. So, for example, again, maybe we should just call this the hypocrisy half hour. I don't know, but we recorded Rocky earlier today, and that might not be out yet when we release this. I don't know how this is going to go. One of my favourite facts about Rocky is that the trauma mogul Lloyd Kaufman, whose autograph we have on the wall up here, is in Rocky. He plays the bum in Rocky, and then they brought him back for Rocky 5 to play the same bum. And there's a chapter in his autobiography about that. And I forgot to bring it up. Before we recorded, I ran upstairs, grabbed Lloyd's book, found the bit, and went, "Yeah, I'm not mad."
Right.
I forgot to say it. And again, but at least that's from his book, you know.
Yeah.
My arse, but like, it's something that I didn't bring up. And so I'm not above it, but at the same time, it's just that so much of it is spurious, and it's this weird kind of Trivial Pursuit pub quiz approach to how you do this, where it's kind of like, well, you forgot to say that Orson Welles shoved suppositories up his arsehole or whatever. It's like,
Also, the smug factor that comes with it, I think, is what I rail against as well. Is this idea that, like, if I can list all the trivia off, it's almost like I made the film. I get to claim as much kudos as someone who actually made the bloody film, and it's like, you don't understand, and I say this as someone who's been on film sets, big and small. You don't know what you're talking about. I know, and I see it with other YouTubers as well. Where they will. I think they get to a certain level, and I'm not talking about anyone in particular here but there are people out there who maybe accrue a certain. It's the same thing. It goes back to what I used to experience at school, which is that like the jocks, or the first rugby team, because they were good at that, thought they were good at music, and I was the music guy, and they would trample all over me when they would come in and say, no, we're going to sing this or we're going to do that, and it's like,
well, mister, I hate to point this out to you, but that could be just about anyone. Sorry, that's it. So tortured. Anyway.
Yeah, well, but that's my point. It's like, just because you get to that stage doesn't mean you know what it's like to make a film. You don't, and you've not been on the set, and you don't know what the creative process is like, and you don't know what. And I don't look. I'm not saying that I know and no one else does. Like, obviously, there's tons of people who work in the film industry, loads of them, and more so than I do. That's not the point. The point is you're coming at this from a highly ignorant, theoretical. But it's not even theoretical. It's not like you've read books by people who do it. You've gone on fucking line and you've read trivia section. This speaks to kind of what this video is about. It's like reading a trivia section is not the same as being there. And it's not the same as witnessing stuff firsthand, and it's even not the same as like understanding the film or analysing the film. This is a very different thing. I think people really confuse that. It's this idea of like, but you didn't mention that, whatever's process for Jeff Goldblum's process for being in The Fly was that he ate a fly or something. It's just like, how is that helping me analyse? Yeah, I mean, he did it up. He noticed one of the shots, his fly is undone. You can't that's not the same as film analysis.
That's why so I'm part of a group on Facebook it's called Pliny's Ostrich Facts, and it's designed around fake trivia for real life.
Okay.
And myself and Ivan will sit around, and if you think of a Pliny fact, you go put it on there. So Space Above and Beyond. Earth: The Final Conflict was on TV last night. Earth: The Final Conflict was created by Gene Roddenberry, but Gene Roddenberry died before that came out. It's based on his notes or something. Yeah. So I went on that group and I posted up a fact that was, upon creating Earth: The Final Conflict, Gene Roddenberry became the first openly dead showrunner in Hollywood. Right? You just make shit up. Yeah. Stupid shit. Risky Quizness is all about making up fake trivia, and a lot of that is based on the trivia you see online, because it's unverifiable and a lot of it's nonsense. And a lot of the stuff that I come up with for those is sort of like, a part of it is like the structure and form of those is how they're phrased and how they're constructed and the assumptions they make, and I think that's what makes that kind of stuff funny, if you can construct something like that, because you can present it in a completely earnest way, and it's not that it could be real, it's that it could be on an IMDb trivia section. You know what I mean?
Well, that's it. And then therein lies the joke, is that it's actually very close to reality. And I think, I suppose it speaks to and I don't want to get into this, but it speaks to the broader sense of fake news that goes on at the moment. But in the instance we're talking about it, there's no urgent or immediacy that requires it to be kept in check in any way. It's this metastasizing malinformation that's out there that it literally, the amount of people I know who aren't film people, who aren't, into it, and they'll, it's like, and it also, another component of this is false reporting. So, for example, Johnny Depp's going to be the Riddler. Sources close to a production say that Johnny Depp's going to be the Riddler. I've had people, and I'm not kidding, even as late on as sort of 2014-ish, like way after Man of Steel, and when they're talking about Batman vs Superman, they're going like, well, Johnny Depp's going to be the Riddler, and it's like, that was talked about in around Dark Knight time.
Eddie Murphy is the Riddler as well. Cher as Catwoman, which was from a Red Top, and it's like, even then Cher was 60. What the? It's just, I hate those the most. The one that come from The Sun. And it's just Christopher Nolan is going to cast Eddie Murphy as a Riddler. It's like, no, he isn't. I bet my left bollock that never comes to pass.
The current example of it, and again, I don't want to go down the political rabbit hole that this invokes, although I know why they've done it, is the Lashana Lynch being 007.
Yeah.
And it's like...
And that's been horribly misreported to farm clicks.
Because all the headlines say, new, 007's going to be... that's it, she's the new 007, as implying...
Yeah, no one's saying she's Jane Bond.
No.
Because that would ruin the fucking headline.
No, and if you just stop... And actually, when you get into those articles, buried in there somewhere, it's basically she's given his code name. She's an MI6 agent.
Yeah.
Because he's not at MI6 agent.
A is clearly a meta-commentary on the part of the filmmakers, and B would have been a cool twist in that film, which has now been ruined by the fucking
you fucked
press.
it now.
Yeah.
And that's what frustrates me about that. Is there's actually like that's an interesting, and it's done in the books, and it's an interesting way to explore. You know, James Bond himself in the book says it's just a number. You know, but people, you know, and it is unfortunately it's played to both sides of the politically who've gone and thrown their toys out the pram or shut the bed or whatever on both sides. So it's not. I'm not making a point either way about that, but it's just another example of misreporting.
Everybody's deliberately misreported that to get clicks.
Yeah,
it's been a really great singular example of how
and you will have ignorant people down the pub now until the next James Bond film comes out, going on about how she's going to be. Yeah, it's all going to be about her. They won't even go and see Bond 25, and then they'll probably be saying about how. Oh, you know, she's going to be the next one. So just shut up. What is it about that role as well? I'm sorry, I don't get the hard on people have for finding out who's going to play James. Even as soon as one's cast, it's like.
It's similar to the Batman Superman thing as well. Who's going to Doctor Who? Like Doctor Who in particular, which these things follow the same pattern. There's just this mad kind of scramble to see who's going to be the next one, and blah 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 blah. And more often than not, I loved it when Matt Smith was handed over. They did like a vox pop with him because he didn't know, and he's like whoever it is, you're going to have this. It's about to change your life, and it's going to be. And then it's Peter Capaldi, an Oscar-winning director who's been working in the... Because Matt Smith didn't know, bless him. And Matt Smith was talking from this perspective of a 27-year-old who won that role. Yeah. And he had no idea the next person was going to be the same. And then it was like 55-year-old Peter Capaldi, who's like this industry veteran. And he walks out and it's kind of like, that made him look dumb. It's not his fault. No. He didn't know. Because that's one of the few cases where a kind of known actor, apart from Christopher Eccleston... You know, that's like a known actor going into it. Jodie Whittaker's kind of fairly well known as well, but not
in
that
British
much.
TV though. Whereas Eccleston would sort of been in.
He'd been in things he'd like G.I. Joe and Gone in 60 Seconds and 28 Days Later, and so he's kind of a bit more global. And he was the first one back after the hiatus. Right. Yes. The hiatus. So you know that was a bit different. They kind of needed a name with a bit of oomph to sort it out, I guess.
Yeah. But, fair. Well, and he was all sexy in leather jacket wearing or something. I remember all the pictures.
He like all rolled out like a look they hadn't done before and shit. And, you know, it was a similar thing. It's just that strange, and then it's kind of and it's the same fucking thing. It's they'll go like, oh well, Tom Hiddleston's going to be the Doctor. No, he isn't. That's not a massive movie star who happens to be British. It's the James Bond same thing. Any British actor of a certain size and shape is. And
that does shake all the way down the tree. The only thing I ever get off people, and they think it's so original, is to say like, oh, could we be looking at the next 007? I was like, that's where your mind went. Like you couldn't go anywhere else. I remember I've had people say to me, is that your dream job, or is that where you'd like to end up? And it's like, my dream job is to find the thing that shows me off as, you know, in the best light possible, and that actually people respond to and enjoy. It's not to try and steal from other people, because actually that's not.
Duncan's going to play me in a film.
Yeah.
10-inch cock, the Richard Jackson story.
On the soft, the Richard Jackson.
On the soft. That's the sequel.
Colon on the soft. Nuns on the soft.
It's like my series of autobiographies. Just descriptors for penises.
So yeah, it's interesting. There's different levels of it all, but it all culminates in the same thing, which is that it's all just horrendous. I suppose it speaks to the broader thing about like humans love to whip up drama and controversy, and they love to be the ones who did it. I think. Yeah. And there's a massive scramble in this era of I hate to say social media, but in this era of online media, shall we say, and online personalities, where people get such a fix out of attention from other people online. They get such a hit of dopamine. You see it on Facebook. I'm sure most of your Facebook feeds will be full of, like, if an actor dies, for example, it's like, oh my God, so saddened today to hear the news of blah, blah, blah. You didn't know him. You didn't know him. Mm. I know. It's like I had this beef with people when Robin Williams died. Look, don't get me wrong, love Robin Williams. Touch me,
push me. They just touch me.
No, but his movies and his work have touched me and millions of others in profound ways. That's absolutely true. Didn't know the man. He wasn't my uncle. I didn't go to his funeral. I never met him. Right. So it's one thing to eulogise him or to sort of say how sad you are, but to say like, you know, the nation has or the world has lost a great thing or another. It's like, look, you're only saying that for your own smug sense of self-gratification.
Yeah,
it's
it's
not
a bit
for anything
weird.
else. It's to appear not only virtuous, but to appear somehow connected to them.
The only two times I could think of doing that is I did it for Keith Flint, because that's just, I didn't know him either, but that's just a sad mental health thing, and it's, someone whose work I followed for a long time.
Yeah.
Before that, it's Ernest Borgnine,
Right.
which came up as a memory on my Facebook thing the other day. So I was like, And even the Ernest Borgnine one was kind of a little bit
Don't get me wrong.
harsh,
Like I said, there's a difference. There's a difference between saying I'm really sad because someone I hugely respected has died today, and especially in the Keith Flint, like that was tragic, and so was Robin Williams. Absolutely the same thing. But to sort of implicate yourself as somehow involved,
you're always making yourself part of the story, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's like that's the step I find utterly narcissistic and horrible, and just pisses on the whole thing altogether. It's like the Robin Williams thing. You didn't care about mental health the day before it happened. You didn't care about all the aspects of it, and it's the same, and it comes down to the same sort of thing. I think when it's like people want to misreport casting, or they want to misreport. They just want to latch onto a thing and state it as fact, and it's like as long as you keep shouting the lie loud enough, it will somehow become, And it's the same. It's the old. It's that's where this sort of online media as well comes from. But it's also this thing of an undisclosed source. If you're media, you don't have to disclose your sources, so you can just say whatever.
Just make shit
and
up,
then you become the source.
Yeah.
So everyone else references you, and it's like what? And that's how
that's the funny online news where you if you see something posted somewhere. And this shit makes its way to the BBC and the Daily Mail and the Guardian and shit, and it's just like, fucking dude, it goes back to a blog, and then someone else has somehow got it on Reuters, so it's a source.
Yeah.
It's like, fucking hell, I could do journalism.
Yeah.
Sounds fucking easy, mate. I could do journalism.
Yeah.
It turns out Alan Titchmarsh has 3 dicks from an undisclosed source with one
and he
vagina.
uses them to plough furrows. I mean...
He looks at pornography and then drags himself. And Tommy's behind him scattering seeds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True fact.
Triple cocked Alan Titchmarsh. Who's still watching? This has gone way off topic, but the people who did have been rewarded.
Well,
with the trident.
The Titchmarsh trident.
The Titchmarsh trident.
Marsh, whatever. It's a frustration for us because I suppose we're subjected to it more so than other people, but I think it's just something that shows no sign of letting up. I suppose what this episode is more about is faux trivia. And that, and the fact that there aren't any, it's not even like the news or anything else where there are generally checks and balances in place. There's just nothing.
Verification needed.
Yeah. And it's all well and good. It's harmless enough, I suppose, to the public at large, but to the likes of us, when it's like we're being pilloried for not mentioning a thing that clearly is bollocks. And it's like, and to me, it's like I suppose I approach all these things with a healthy dose of salt, because I go, come on, that's not possible. It's like not to talk about James Bond endlessly, and we're going to wrap up quickly after this, but the Grace Jones thing, storming off set because her cameo was too small or whatever. It's like, firstly, those kind of negotiations don't happen like that. She wouldn't have turned up without knowing and seeing the script and knowing what she was going to be doing. She's not going to just be like, okay, darling, I'll come down, whatever. And then she got there and like, here's your...
My part is too small.
Yeah, and here's your sides. And it's like, and she looked at him and went, no, and like threw it away and ran off. It's like, that's not possible. But it's the kind of thing where you can see like it embellished. It's like maybe they reached out to her or they spoke to her and she said this part was too small.
Yeah, there's no doubt a grain of truth in there somewhere.
Yeah, but anyway. That about does it, I think, for talking about trivia and our grievances therein.
The grievances therein, yeah.
A few too many home truths, I suppose, they're spun by. Or maybe not.
I don't know. Maybe we done fucked up.
Maybe we watched this back.
After I've been emboldened by the last one of these we did, which I thought we'd be torpedoed by the nostalgia ones. Maybe we just doubled down on how awful we are. Let's see what happens.
Why not?
At least it's honest.
Well, thank you very much for watching After Hours. Twitter, Discord, yada yada.
Y'all know.
Down there. Please hit the thumbs up if you like this. Please hit the double thumbs down if you didn't. And yeah. We'll see you soon.
Bye. Support your 7th or 8th favourite YouTube channel by buying crap, tat, junk, hogwash and filth at redbubble.com/people/Valverde shop.